It's about that time. Shukan, thank you for your generosity in giving away the birthday gift to Refry and gifting your pit fiend to Donnie. We are now going to make our second Barbarian of the evening. Our first still needs a name, by the way, but we made a female half-elf neutral wild soul barbarian who's a shipwright as a guild artisan background. And through the process, we made a three-dimensional character. And you know what? Is this what someone might consider to be an optimum barbarian? Heck no. Is this barbarian fun? Is this barbarian have a good backstory? Compelling? Can we think about the decisions that she'd make as if we were her pilot? Absolutely yes. And we're going to do that one more time over here. How'd you go about role-playing a three-headed Dragonborn? Kitty, I would either use or in conjunction use three different accents or methods of speaking, and something that's a visual reminder. So that could be like a headband that maybe has a couple colors and you turn it to the one, or a little like a marker you hold in front of you. And so when, you know, if the heads are color coded or whatever, and you say that the green marker is George and the black marker is Regina, and whatever the yellow marker that's totally not a pocket knife is is Joseph, then you can hold up the item and even speak in an accent in order to help convey. If you want, you could just narrate and says, Georgina says, or Joseph says. Though, if you want to get into it, I'd bring a prop or some other visual cue and get into the accents. Or just the methodology. Maybe one of them sounds tired all the time. One of them sounds really stressed out all the time. Think about the personality of the heads and bring that to life through your voice and through props. Refry, if you do @Shukan, it'll bring it up on Discord. Alright, so here's our dice roller. Let's reset it. And now, using our custom character generator here, let's get a couple rolls in, shall we? Let's roll to see, do we have a female character, a male character, or a multi-class character? 8. We have a female character. And the race is going to be one of 9 that's found in the player's handbook. To keep things simple, to help focus on the core, like comparing to other barbarian stuff, or just to keep it from accessing several books, we're going back to the player's handbook. So I'm going to roll a D9, or I'm going to roll a D10, I'll just re-roll a 10. 4. We have a gnome, and now odds or evens is going to determine a forest gnome or a rock gnome. Odds. So we have a female forest gnome. Female forest gnome. I'm going to roll the balanced odds for the alignment. And we are going to manifest the character at level 14, as that's when we get the capstone ability for the subclass of Wild Soul Barbarian. So it is an artificial constraint, but I think we understand why we're going with that, because I want to showcase the subclass. So I'm going to roll a percentile to find out the alignment, and then I'm going to roll another one to determine down here, are we replacing the stat bumps at 4, 8, and 12 with a feat? First things first, we rolled a 97. We have a chaotic evil. We have a chaotic evil forest gnome wild soul barbarian. And she is just taking natural stat bumps. Alright, next up, what is her background? Again, we're sticking to the player's handbook, and I am going to roll an 18-sided die to assign her one of the backgrounds in the player's handbook. Now, there's technically 13 backgrounds. However, several of them have kind of a sub-option you can use to thematically replace little bits. So much progress stuff happened. Oh, well, that's good, Hark. I hope it's a good episode then. A punchy little leprechaun, says Big Sam. Hey, welcome back. Gnome Barbarian with minor illusions sounds fun, says Donnie. Yes, a D18. Because there's 18 choices, so I'm gonna randomly generate a number between 1 and 18 with this little command button down here. It was indeed 3. A criminal. Okay. So our background is that of a criminal. By the way, it's interesting. We're talking about this wild soul barbarian being a manifestation of, or like a medium from the wild emotional magics of the Feywild. And here we have a half-elf, you know, that, again, completely randomly rolled, that has Fey ancestry, like directly racially stated. And we have a forest gnome. Gnomes don't have the Fey ancestry descriptor, though many consider gnomes to be Fey descendants as well. Like, gnomes to elves are halflings are to humans, kind of a thing. And yet we also have a forest gnome who is also channeling the Feywild. So is something telling us? Is this a sign that we're meant to really conduct these primal these primal urges and surges and everything else? All right, we have our class and our subclass. That one's pretty easy, as we are a barbarian wild soul. Or we could just put wild. I think that's what I did last time. We don't have a class feature to roll for. And so the only other aspect here that we need to worry about, or at least for something physical, actually beyond the background rolls, but we'll get to that shortly. We're going to change the stat bars from half-elf to a forest gnome. And as you can see, the years and the height and weight and everything changed automatically. This is a beautiful spreadsheet for character creation. All right, so we have a percentile to roll to determine where in the life cycle this character is. I rolled a 40, so we have another adult. So we're going to be rolling a 165-sided die and adding that to 40 years. So 165 with a modifier of 40. So a total of 92. She is an adult at 92 years old. The base height for forest gnomes is 2 feet 11 inches, and we're going to add 2d4 inches to her height. We're going to multiply that by the modifier of 1 and add that to the base weight of 35 pounds. Oops. 2d4. 7. So she is 3 feet 6 inches tall and weighs 42 pounds. Excellent. Now we have the outline of the character. Let's fill her in. Let's explore details and sketch in her personality and, you know, color her abilities and go from here. Fey does not equal fair. That is correct, Kitty Bird. Well, at least not fair as in like a balanced sense. Though they are often called the fair folk. Just not that kind of fair. You have an all-elf party later today? Oh, I hope that's going well, James. Shukan, you want to send any unpainted minis that you have to Refry? All right, Shukan, can you send that to me in a message on Discord so I have that as a reminder, please? All right, Refry, you're going to have to show us some pictures of this stuff once it arrives to you. All right, now that we have this, let's open... Clearly, you all have your player's handbooks open, right? Let's open to Chapter 4, which is our background. And you'll notice I start with the background first, because your background really gives your character his or her character. The numbers and everything, that will follow. I'm not worried about numbers. Let's not worry about all that, the math. This is creative storytelling. This is D&D. As a criminal, we had a particular specialty. So I'm going to roll an 8-sided die. 5. Oh, we were a highway robber. And in addition, we're going to generate 2 personality traits, an ideal and a bond and a flaw. So 5, 4, 7, 5, 1, 5. 5, 4, 7, 5, 1, 5. Excellent. This is one of the few channels on Twitch where we absolutely love random number generation. All right, so we come back up here to the placeholder, which won't last too long, as we were a highway robber. As part of the background, we get deception and stealth proficiency. Deception and stealth. 1 type of gaming set and thieves' tools as proficiencies. So a gaming set, and we can fill that in later if you feel, yeah, she's really, you know, she plays dominoes, she plays chess, she plays cards or dice or something. We can fill that in as appropriate. So a gaming set and thieves' tools. Equipment. A crowbar. Which, it's sort of an unofficial thing. You know how many people might name their weapon? I think a good thief names their trusty crowbar. And so as we're developing this character, if you have a name for what she would call her trusty, faithful crowbar, you're welcome to offer one up. Or if a couple of you do, then maybe we can sort of work them together. A set of dark common clothes with a hood. And a belt pouch with 15 gold pieces. Ta-da! She was a highwayman named Jonah Cash. James Norris 04D2. Kitty Bird, yes, Mr. Morgs. There we go. There you go, Kitty. Come on, you're a good student. You always have your player's handbook ready to follow along. Now, our feature is a criminal contact. We know someone who knows how to get things, or hide things, or provides us information. It's an awesome background feature, and if you're playing as a DM and someone's playing a criminal, this is going to instantly put an NPC in the world, which will hook this character into the world and make things, you know, more interactive. The player with this background is doing you a big favor. All right, it is now time to explore, and I'm going to scoot this over so we can read this a little bit better. It's time to explore the personality of this character. Just because we rolled chaotic evil doesn't mean that she is, you know, that she just has to be like a Joker-style serial murderer. I mean, we'll find out, but her personality trait number 1 is number 4. I would rather make a new friend than a new enemy. But, she's chaotic evil. Doesn't she have to burn down orphanages and kick puppies in the street? That's what chaotic evil people do. No, she could. I mean, a lawful good person could do that. Now, arguably, how long would you stay that alignment? Just because you're chaotic evil doesn't mean that you would rather make friends than enemies. And remember, too, chaotic evil is... it's not lol random, I'm going to get up today and I'm going to, you know, I'm going to rob a bank, and then tomorrow I'm going to go, you know, whatever, buy buy a dagger and something. Albert Akazapata? Did I pronounce that correctly? If not, please correct me. Yeah, chaotic evil doesn't have to be chaotic stupid. She's impulsive and she's selfish. Now, that would mean that if it comes down to saving herself from drowning or someone next to her, if it was one or the other, she'd choose herself. She wouldn't try and sacrifice. It would be an easy choice for her. But chaotic evil in this case is she's impulsive and she's selfish. And she is selfish more often than she is selfless. Nothing at all stops this character from going to a local temple and donating 10 gold pieces, whether they're stolen or earned legitimately. Chin, thank you very much for the follow. Welcome aboard. And we have a cat, everyone. She's back. Now, personality trait number 7. The best way to get me to do something is to tell me I can't do it. So she is very energetic. She's very spunky. She's, oh yeah, sure. You don't think I can scale that wall? Watch, I'm going to scale that wall. Kitty Bird, thank you for the cat butt emotes. They're certainly welcome at this time. And Blargle, also, thank you very much for the 6 months. And by the way, Blargle, now that you hit 6 months, take a look at your chat badge. It has gone up in spice level. You have a nice orange spice. Maybe that's like a salsa con queso. Now, what is her ideal? Come back up here. Her ideal is number 5, honor. Or, I'm sorry, not honor. That's number 1. Her ideal is number 5, people. I'm loyal to my friends, not to any ideal. Her ideal is not to be loyal to ideals. And everyone else can take a trip down the Styx, or appropriate region, for all I care. We have a very social, yes, chaotic evil, we have a very social forest gnome barbarian. Oh my goodness, so this is going to test my pronunciation here. Forgive me for just abbreviating it to what, Fanita. Thank you very much and welcome aboard. Thank you for the follow. And hey, Gareth is here. Welcome. Lawful good theoretically means you live to a strict moral code while doing good things, but it can be very odd because you could have an elf that kills a human prisoner in cold blood, but because they focus elves above humans, the argument could be made good or evil. In other words, welcome to why I don't use alignments. Yeah, and I like looking at alignments as the way that you express yourself. They don't necessarily guide your actions, but this is your brain to mouth filter or your brain to hand filter. You can be chaotic evil and have honor, which is a lawful ideal, as an ideal. It's what you're striving for. You know, you don't steal from others in the trade. I mean, that doesn't mean that you don't steal from others. That could be seen as evil, because this is awful or chaotic. Though we're saying that this is impulsive and especially tempered by other aspects of the personality. She's very social. Why make a new enemy in that case? No reason to. I'll still steal. I might think about stealing from other people just to see if I can do it. And it's going to be a challenge if someone tempts me not to try and steal something from the local thieves guild or whatnot. But you can have honor as a chaotic evil thief. It's just you're more impulsive in your expression of your words and your actions. You might be more prone to, going up to a lady and saying, "Hey, are you pregnant or just fat?" It was a question that popped up in your mind, and your brain to mouth filter is more, you have a personal curiosity. You don't really care about the other person's feelings. You just want to know. Because maybe that's the difference between ganking them or not. Donnie, I agree. As a mechanic and as the primary the determinator of actions, alignment is outdated if you look at it that way. So that's why looking at alignment as the expression of your character, who can have a mix of personality traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws, I think is a better way to approach it, and to move away from the old thinking that alignment is your personality. Her bond to this world is number 1. I'm trying to pay off an old debt. I owe to a generous benefactor. Yeah, if you really want to boil something down into more of a two-dimensional approach, I agree, Donnie. I agree. Cake Boss, you're correct. I do agree with that. Now, the flaw of this character, because we are all flawed creatures, my friends, is number 5. I turn tail and run when things look bad. Even if we're raging, you know, if you're sticking to the flaw, you're sticking to your character. Just because you're raging doesn't mean you're fearless, unless you're a berserker. In which case, I guess mechanically you could say only in this circumstance will I not run away. Woofin OCE, welcome. I'm stealing that ideal. That's beautiful. I'm loyal to my friends and everyone else can go jump in the sticks. Here we go. So we have a character. So what? There's absolutely no math. I don't know if she has a dagger or a bow. Who cares? That is irrelevant to who is our character. Who is she? We have this 92-year-old female forest gnome who's a barbarian that is on the path of the wild soul. She is, or was recently, a criminal, specifically a highway robber. You know, the type of person who sticks you up with a, with a crossbow and says your GP or your HP. I would rather make a new friend than a new enemy, and the best way to get me to do something is to tell me I can't do it. Her ideal is people. She's loyal to her friends, doesn't care about other people, so if you're her friend, you're safe. If you're not, well... I'm trying to pay off an old debt. I owe a generous benefactor. Now, this is interesting. What if the generous benefactor is the one that bestowed the wild path on her? We're talking about a barbarian that is getting its power from the Feywild. And you know who else gets their power from the Feywild? I will be taking answers up above. Dun 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 dun. A warlock of the Archfey patron. That is a person who has made a deal with an Archfey to receive power. And that power comes from this denizen, from the Feywild itself. In this regard, who's to say that our highway robber in the forest perhaps didn't come across such a person and bargained with her soul? Or bargained with something else. Maybe she stole a very powerful artifact. Like a wishing lamp, or, we can call it the firefly jar, and inside you thought it was a firefly, but it was actually an archfey that was trapped. And in response, for being freed, gave her this power. At no cost, or at extreme cost. And so, yeah, we're talking about a barbarian, but how How does that relate to warlocks? I think we have a very compelling idea for it. I think this works very beautifully. Now, of course, if you have other ideas out there, please, boop, 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 right above. Share them. But why couldn't this character come across a Fae that entered into a pact of sorts? Right? I'm trying to pay off a debt I owe to a generous benefactor. So a debt, a debt may not necessarily be a contract as per Warlock. However, it is still powers granted now for repayment of something later. And this just provides a fertile seedbed for a dungeon master who has a player coming to him or her with this character. This could very well be the entire adventure. Like the main storyline for the entire adventure. And you, as the dungeon master, were just handed it over. This story was handed to you on a silver platter by one of your players, who, by making a character for the story, pretty much said, you know what? I'm guaranteed to follow these, I don't want to say guaranteed, but I'm pretty well going to follow any of the hooks that are here, because it's a part of my character, and I want to immerse her into the world. So we've created a backstory, we've created decision-making, we've created an attitude for this character, and we've done it without worrying at all about numbers, about modifiers, or any of that other stuff. In this case, we have a criminal contact. What if mechanically it did the same thing, but this was replaced to something like a Fey contact? And the Fey could still, like, pull tricks and get information, fence items and stuff like that. Why not? Mechanically, or at least as much as this notion of a background feature is mechanical, it will perform as intended by the background feature. If you change criminal to Fey, this could very well mean that it's not a summon, it's not a minion. Though this person, this forest gnome, knows a Fey. Maybe even the one who holds her pact not pact. And she needs to give people, items, money to this contact. So the contact will work to enable her, but the contact gets to go out in the world in a different way than the Fae could to get the things that need to be gotten. Is this exciting? I'm really hyped. I love this concept that we've created. And look, it's just some words on a character sheet so far. And yet we have this living, breathing world. We're considering these circumstances. It still plays by the rules that are set out. Yet this is our character. It is still unique. It steps to the side, but it doesn't have to lose anything, or it doesn't have to gain anything and become a Mary Sue in some capacity. Now that we have our background information, we're going to go back to our player's handbook. So Kitty Bird, if you're out there, you're going to go to Chapter 2 Races, and we're going to go to the Gnomes. That starts on page 35. All right, intelligence increases by 2 as a gnome, as just in general. Our speed is 25 feet. 12, 12, 0. We do get 60 feet of dark vision. We also have gnome cunning. You have advantage on all intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws against magic. Especially being a barbarian. Oh, that's huge. I mean, that's kind of a de facto proficiency in 5 saves. And all we would need is, well, no, arguably, we would get all 6. We'd almost be like a monk. Because we get some dexterity stuff as a barbarian. So by being a gnome barbarian, you are effectively proficient in all saves after, I forget which level. You love gnome barbarian. So we have advantages versus, I'm just going to call these mind saves. Or mental saves if you want. Languages, Common and Gnomish. And for the sub-race, we are a forest gnome. Our dexterity score goes up by 1. And we also have a cantrip, Natural Illusionist. You know the minor illusion cantrip. Intelligence is your spellcasting ability for it. And you know what? If you're a highway robber and you want to hide in the brush or you want to hide in the woods, minor illusion can do a ton just by itself as a cantrip to help you in that. We can also speak with small beasts. Speak with small beasts. Through sounds and gestures, you can communicate simple ideas with small or smaller beasts. Forest gnomes love animals and often keep squirrels, badgers, rabbits, moles, woodpeckers, and other creatures as beloved pets. If you want to keep her having a criminal contact that is more on the humanoid side, and you want to give her a pet, do you want to give her a pet mole? Is that the Fey contact? Or is that how the Fey monitors, that this person is out there working, kind of like a contract enforcer, dressed up in a cute little fin, feather, or fur dressing? So everyone's like, oh yeah, that's so-and-so. She has this cute little pet mole. Meanwhile, the mole is actually observing and watching and making sure that the payments are handed over on time. And when they're not, to gently remind our barbarian that the powers that are keeping her alive or keeping her going or something are very easy to diminish. We didn't really assign it a color refry, so it could be whatever you want. And yeah, if you want to give her a crow or a raven. Did someone say enforcer? Alright, so we are now not only a highway robber, we are also a forest gnome. And now we are going to go and explore what we get for being a base barbarian. Because we're going to save our subclass for last. So once more, this is what we're looking at. 14 levels of barbarian. And so this is going to give us a +5 proficiency bonus. We are also going to get 5 rages per day. So I'm going to put that... Oh, it's a little hidden. I got to scoot this back over. Now that we're working on the character a little bit more fully. There we are. Is that Yori or Jory? But either way, Jory and Drake, or is it a name of Jorian Drake, like first name, last name? Still, welcome and hello. Jorian Drake, got it. Okay, thank you for clarifying. We are a D12 hit die class as a barbarian, and we get 14 of them. Coincidentally, because we're level 14. Funny how that works out. Remember, that represents your natural ability to recover without consumables or spells between, events. You do this on a rest. We are proficient in light armor, medium armor, and shields. Our weapons, we have simple and martial weapon proficiency. No tool proficiencies. And we're proficient in strength and constitution saving throws. So those are going to get filled in. Now it's time to choose 2 skills. And let's take a look at who she is. I know we're tempted, and I've done this before, where someone's like, did anyone take perception? Someone's got to take perception. Come on. Now, in this case, perception may very well work. Because as a highway robber, you need to be on the lookout for marks or the law. Though still, when we create characters on this channel in the workshop, our skills and a lot of our decisions are made based off of who the character is. Which is also why we start by developing the background first for the character, after getting some placeholder stuff. So we can choose between animal handling, athletics, intimidation, nature, perception, and survival. I think she's really good with animals as a forest gnome. And I think perception works because of her being a lookout. Good night. Thank you for stream. Was great. Looking forward to a new salsa emote. Thank you very much, Tamrick. Thank you for hanging out with us tonight. This is 5th edition, yes. And yeah, nature could work out as well. You know, growing up as a forest gnome, you might have been taught about nature. And we could even say, instead of perception as a highway robber, what if that's just, you know, it's a method of survival? You know, you have to track people. If you're living out in the wilds, you want to track, or you want to determine some information. You want to find sources of water, because you're probably wanted in big cities, or at least like the big city or something along those lines. So yeah, you make a very good point, Jorian. So let's see. I'd rather make a new friend than a new enemy. Best way to get me to do something is to tell me I can't do it. People, I'm loyal to my friends, not to ideals. I'm trying to pay off an old debt I owe a generous benefactor. And I turn tail and run when things look bad. We are a highway robber, wild soul barbarian, forest gnome. Something happened that... So perhaps this transformation is what turned her to express herself in this chaotic evil fashion, where she's impulsive and she's selfish because she has this debt and it has to be repaid. She very well could have started out as a neutral good, you know, you know, denizen in the woods or something. And something happened when this pact, not pact, was made, that granted her these abilities that facilitated her to repay the debt that she made with perhaps a Fey, an Archfey. I'm really digging this thought process from starting backgrounds and personality first. Really makes the character create... Yes, it does, Goblin. I hope more people do it this way. Because what a forest gnome is a forest gnome, right? The stats are the same mechanically, and we can add personal touches like hair color and stuff. That's fine. But, you know, a cleric's a cleric, whatever, a half-orc's a half-orc. But who is this half-orc? Who is this cleric? The cleric is the end result, is like where this character has come from. What were the origins? What was your first job? What was your hobby? What did you do first? And everything we build now is baked into her personality. Everything she does, all her stats, are a reflection of her. As we consider her in different situations, I think we can easily determine what she would do in them. Because we know the character. Her being a gnome, I mean, speaking with beasts is fine. And that could be a fun roleplay tool that could even play into the whole, I'd rather make a new friend. Nothing up here is saying it has to be a human. Maybe she really only gets along better with animals. And she doesn't like people. Because maybe to her, people are scumbags. Then again, well, I mean, not even then again, does that play into her backstory? We haven't written a backstory, but we have at the same time. We have all the prompts right up here. What happened to this little forest gnome? What happened that she entered into this pact that made her very selfish and vicious in pursuit of repaying a debt? What was the debt for? Yeah, we don't have a warlock, but so what? We can run warlock style, you know, thought processes here. Arguably, we're a warlock barbarian because we slot in the invocation of tech magic, and we can also do some other stuff. Oh, Goblin? All right, so Goblin, let me tell you this. So you befriend a wild dog or a wolf or a fox or something, and you're a little gnome. And so you go out to a road in the countryside somewhere, forest, wherever. And you have a fresh beet with you, okay? And what you do is you take your knife and you start slicing this beet. And you make sure you get beet juice all over your knife and your hand. And then what you do, the wolf, you could also play into that. You could like smear it on the wolf's face. But if you get where I'm going here, you can then make a friend of this wolf or this fox and be like, okay, here they come. Pretend you're eating me, and so they'll stop. Like I'll groan like I'm in pain, and then I'm still alive, and then they're gonna go out and help, and then I'll shank their knee and steal their coin purse. You could very much set up a one-woman bandit shop, a highway robber that uses animals similar to Fagin using orphans in Oliver Twist. Especially because you can speak with them. To an extent. Hundreds of squirrels sneak into the house and take everything. Hot dog or Hot Doge Lord, have you ever played in the Odyssey block of Magic the Gathering? Perhaps less of a pact, more on training and chaotic fighting and chaotic fey magic. I don't know if it would be training, but it would simply be granting access to, for sure. And so it would be up to us to consider what was this pact of sorts made that gave her this and then turned her into this very selfish, like survivalist individual. Would rather steal food than gold, being a barbarian in natural surroundings. And that may very well be too. She might not have any interest in money. If she's getting these powers from an archfey or something similar, what do the Fey need gold for? They especially don't really like metal. But instead, they would want something else. They'd want experiences, or they'd want, who knows. And if she's traveling around with a little animal companion, that might be the manifestation or the enforcer of this pact. What if the person who's providing her these powers says, you know what? I could use a real set of blue eyes. Why don't you go steal some blue eyes for me? Well. And she looks a little disgusted. Well, you owe me. And you know what happens if you don't pay up. Now, of course, that could be the physical removal of the eyes, or simply she lays someone low, and then this Fey character, like this animal companion, pops out and simply goes, like, is on the person and looks into their eyes and steals the color from their eyes. And so their eyes just go like dark or gray or something. They're still functional. Because also, what are Fey but tricksters? And so now, the Fey, this animal, has these very disconcertingly looking humanoid blue eyes. But the Fey couldn't have done it without our little barbarian, especially because it would get enjoyment from watching her squirm. Or just watching and how she reacts to the prompts and the situations. Yeah, it is a channeling of Fey energy in this case. Reminded of the magicians, says James Norris. And yeah, Jorian, you would result to a kidnapping, especially, look, not only are you impulsive and selfish, but you're doing so to repay a debt to possibly a greater being that is holding someone or something over your head. You don't steal the blue from the eyes. You're not getting whatever. For all we know, this is an adult. You're not getting your children back. Ah, yes. I haven't forgotten about that. It's been 20 years and I'm come calling. You've had access to my powers for 20 years. Now let's see you use it. There are no numbers, no like mechanical numbers per se in ability scores on this sheet. And we have built a fascinating character that for a barbarian, like, this isn't Kronk Smash per se. I'd argue we have like a dex barbarian, more so than a strength barbarian. All right, so I think animal handling and nature could work. Survival might be more appropriate then. Because she's been going out in the wilds. I don't mind the nature knowledge that was brought up earlier. I think if we're building the story in this direction based off of what we've randomly generated, by the way, if any of you are new here, you're wondering, oh, well, who is this character? Sounds like you've been talking about him for a month. Brand new, just random rolls. I think survival might be a little bit better in that case. I like old style D&D with clerics always only channeling a god's might. Oh, it could be an Unseelie Archfey, yeah. Absolutely. And that's for us to imagine and think about. Equipment, I'm not worried about mundane equipment. I mean, I could put that she has a battle axe. I could put that she has a light hammer. I want to focus. I want to get through the barbarian stuff, and then we're going to take a look. We're going to apply the mechanics of the Unearthed Arcana here. So we are going to get rage. We can already rage. We rage 5 times a day. And our damage, we rage is +3. And of course, you get all the other benefits. This is stuff I'm not going to go deep into. This is in your player's handbook. If you don't have it, pause the stream and read, or acquire it elsewhere. You can watch the VOD or pause it on YouTube. We're going to get unarmored defense. So while you're not wearing any armor, your armor class equals 10 plus your dexterity modifier plus your constitution. We also are getting danger sense. And that's going to give us some fun abilities, including initiative. Primal Path, well, we're going to get to that after we finish filling into level 14. ASIs will assign later. We do get extra attack at level 5. And fast movement, we're up to 35 feet. So there we go. Feral Instinct. Can't be surprised. And advantage on initiative. I'm sorry, Danger Sense was the other. That was the dex-based thing. Then we get Brutal Critical, and specifically because we're level 14, our Brutal Critical, we're getting 2 additional dice. So this would be Brutal Critical. I wrote it on the last Barbarian as ×3. I guess that's presuming that you only have 1 damage die. If you're going Greatsword, it's 2d6 instead. So in this case, it would actually just... Anyway, that's my explanation. I'm putting ×3 for brevity's sake. Though, just make sure you're paying attention to that when it comes to Brutal Critical. And then lastly, at level 11, because Persistent Rage is a 15th level feature, starting at 11th level... your rage can keep you fighting despite grievous wounds. Excellent. This is a non-GMO, non-ASI. Well, no, this is pure ASI. This is non-feat. Unless your weapon or any other items have any character, story, or development, it's just a mundane hunk of weapon. Yeah, hot dog. If we're doing a more like maybe a more dedicated build where we're not trying to highlight new rules or have these discussions, we'd go through and say, yeah, probably more of a bow fighter, or as the monk, you know what, are we a short sword style or maybe more a quarterstaff? Because those could be little personality traits. I think we have a tremendous personality, but I'm not worried about what she wields more than who she is, and we're exploring the Unearthed Arcana Wild Soul Barbarian. If I had rolled that we would replace an ASI with a feat, I very much agree, Jorian. Though, as the dice fell, she's going all stat bumps. I think, though, we're going to have a high dex barbarian here. Okay, so we don't get Persistent Rage. So this is who she is as a barbarian, right? Barbarian's a barbarian, a barbarian. Of course, you flavor it yourself. I don't want to make it sound mundane. Now we're going to head back over to the Unearthed Arcana Path of the Wild Soul Barbarian here. At 3rd level, we get Lingering Magic. At 3rd level, your body reacts to the presence of magic. You can cast the Detect Magic spell without using a spell slot or components. Constitution's your spellcasting ability for this spell. You faintly glow a color corresponding to the school of magic you detect. You choose. you can use this feature a number of times equal to your Constitution modifier. So this is lingering magic, con per long rest. And you say, well, how many times can we do it? 2, 3? Does it matter right now? Because we're building our character. And it'll be what it is. Even if we only do it once, so what? That's still one use. That's still one good use of Detect Magic that could be clutch. Now, we probably will have a high con. Though still, I'm not going to worry about that detail just yet. Now, Wild Surge. Starting at 3rd level, magic erupts from you as you rage. When you enter your rage, roll on the Wild Surge table to determine the magical effect produced. So, you pop a rage, and one of 8 effects that mostly correspond to a school of magic occur. So, Wild Surge is going on the sheet down here. So we have our Necrotic, we have our Necromancy, we have our Conjuration. As we said with Trust-a-Flump from D&D time, we're going to come back to this one. We have Abjuration, we have Transmutation, we have Divination, we have Illusion, and we have Evocation or Evocation, depending on how you want to pronounce it. We are missing Enchantment, and this isn't necessarily an enchantment style. This isn't exactly an enchantment style simulation. So, you know, make with it what you will. Also, as we brought up in the last video, if you weren't around for it, whether now live on the VOD or if you're watching this on YouTube, remember to have a talk to your DM. It just says they fly out from you. And is this completely laterally, or could they also fly up 30 feet and explode? Can I describe a clutch Detect Magic? I mean, super clutch could just be even basic survival on the street. You pass by someone and you're detecting magic, and you detect, I don't know, necromancy on someone's dagger they're carrying at their side. Now, carrying a dagger on the street might be normal, but you have to stop and wonder, why did this person acquire a dagger with necromantic energies infused into it? Because there's a reason. And so in this case, perhaps you put your guard up a little bit. Hot dog. Hey, yeah, I mean, it's possible. It's possible. I mean, sorcerers love con. Yeah, you could certainly do that. All right, now we also have magic reserves. And we can do this as we're 14th level. We can do this on a D6. At 6th level, you channel the magic surging inside you into other creatures. As an action, you can touch a creature and roll a D4. The creature recovers an expended spell slot of a level equal to the number rolled. If the creature you touch can't recover a spell slot of that level, the creature instead gains temporary hit points equal to 5 times the number rolled. So that's good if you're buffing, if you're given a good game to a melee class or even a sorcerer that doesn't have that spell slot. You take force damage equal to 5 times the number rolled. And of course, with it, as it's written here, that can be mitigated in different ways. But you can go around and back up your party, give them a bunch of good games. Because all you got to do is just, you take the damage. Yeah, we were just talking about that in our first Barbarian build, Hot Dog. You wear a brooch of shielding, and you're just going through the locker room. Good game, good game, good game, good game, good game, good game. Well, you couldn't have... the bear totem, yes, except that's already a Barbarian subclass. And so, unless your DM is allowing you to weave your subclasses, that would actually be excluded. We also are going to get Arcane Rebuke. At 10th level, a magic crackling within your soul lashes out. When a creature forces you to make a saving throw while you're raging, you can use your reaction to deal 3d6 force damage to the creature. You know, so it's a hellish rebuke that isn't resisted by half of the resisted or ignored by half the monster manual. In the last Barbarian, I argued, well, you know, I understand force damage. If you want, have fun with your DM and randomly roll the type. If we're talking about forces of chaos, you know, do you look at someone who tried to enchant you and then you just sort of explode in poison on them and say, no, stop it. But, I mean, force is force. Of course. And as Hot Dog was saying, and as Trust-a-Flump was saying earlier, in a world where these barbarians exist, so too probably do brooches of shielding. Yep, Helmed Horrors are the yep, they're the only ones that are immune to force. And Chaotic Fury, this is the capstone of the subclass, or the path, or the archetype, whatever you want to call it here. Chaotic Fury. At 14th level, you become a wellspring of wild magic while you're raging. As a bonus action, you can re-roll on the Wild Surge table, replacing your current effect with a new one. So you rage and you run hopefully 30 or more feet away, more than 30 feet away from your companions, and you just start blowing up on the battlefield. Just magic is just shooting out of you every round if you want. You could talk to your DM and maybe she or he would let you instead roll on the Wild Surge table for the sorcerers for as a bonus action. However, this is obviously built with more of the offensive barbarian build in mind, though if you want to have some fun and your DM is open-minded, maybe every once in a while you roll a percentile every round in combat. Hopefully, again, you're more than 30 feet away from your friends. Yeah. Yeah, Hot Dog. Well, Jorian, archetypes stop at different levels depending on the build. Because of the goodies that you get from your class or your subclass, or your archetype, if you want to call it that. They're not all the same. So in this case, you know, we go back to Barbarian, and Barbarian gets Persistent Rage and Indomitable Might, and lastly, their capstone for being a Barbarian isn't in their subclass at all. It's Primal Champion here. Yeah. And so it all mixes and matches. The class and the subclass interweave, and then, of course, we take multi-classing into consideration as well. That way, it's not all the same. You know, that way you don't go, oh, yeah, so between all the, I was going to say jobs, this isn't Final Fantasy, between all the classes, you know, I'll take this at fighter, and then, you know, everyone has an open slot at 4, and everyone has an open slot at 7, or whatever. This way it mixes it, and you're getting some good diversity flowing through your character. Awesome. All right. We have, so, all of this, remember, if we have the concept that we developed in mind already, this is flavoring everything that we're doing here. Everything is now touched by how this character acquired the powers, how she is deciding or not to use them. And now that we have the chassis, we have made the character, in the methodology by which mechanics will be delivered, well, we got a Barbarian. We're going to drop a Hemi in this one, all right? I was going to say, do goblins get one at 20? Do paladins? I'll check it out for you here real quick. Yeah, you get, well, at 20, yeah, you get a Sacred Oath feature here. And so if you took Oath of Devotion, your 20 capstone is actually based on your subclass. So in this case, you get Holy Nimbus. 20th level as an action, you can emanate an aura of sunlight. For 1 minute, bright light shines from you, etc., etc. You're thinking an electric motor, says Refry? Alright, using the standard array, 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, 8. I don't see her as a big brawler. And yes, Rage does, Rage does give you, strength, some strength, bonuses here. So, boop-a-dip-a-doo, let's go to, enter a Rage's bonus action. While raging, you gain the following benefits. You have advantage on strength checks and strength saving throws. When you make a melee weapon attack using strength, you gain a bonus to damage. And you have resistance to bludgeoning, piercing. We can absolutely make a dex-based barbarian with average, if below average, strength. And she still gets a ton of use out of her rage. And if she does hit with a strength melee attack, then she'll get bonus damage. So it's a little harder for her to hit, but she can keep up. Like, she can still deal normal damage otherwise. Yeah, so that's the other point, Jorian, and that's what we ended up doing with our first barbarian that we made tonight, is we capped out Constitution. So it makes the bursts harder to resist. And so yeah, you're correct in that regard. So I think a con dex build is gonna be is gonna win the day here. So what if we did something like this? 15 dex, 14 con. Guess we could do the 13 strength, give her, like, above average strength. Oh, you know what? Wisdom. She loves hanging out with animals in the wilds. She's probably not the smartest. Now, being a gnome gives you that riding +2, but I think, honestly, I think intelligence is going to end up being her dump stat for this. And if you have a different suggestion, hey, throw it out there. So 15, 14, 13. You know what? 12, 10. Let's give her a 10 strength. We're not here to be munchkins. We're not here to min-max. We're here to create a compelling character that is functional at the tabletop. She will absolutely be able to do stuff in combat and use her rages. More loot or captives to transport with a 10 strength, or with a higher strength. Yeah, so you know what? So why don't we give her a slightly higher? I mean, she's probably not hauling, 3 tons at a time. But we can do that. Give her a slight edge. If she's lived in the wild, she's going to have a slightly above average strength. All right, so with this, intelligence goes to 10. And dexterity goes to 16. And now we get 6 points to add to her stats. And maybe not entirely, though I think we should put 4 of the 6 into Constitution, if not all 6. Or if you want to put 4 into Constitution, I think that'd be good. And even we could split the last one between Wisdom to bring that up to a 14 and Strength. And hear me out if we do this, all right? So let's put 4 points in here and bring that to an 18. Let's bring our Wisdom to a 14, because I think with the animal handling and survival, that's important to her. If you're ever faced with floating a 1, okay? My recommendation, and of course feats can always balance it out, depends on your future plans for the campaign. If you put that spare 1 in your strength score, mechanically you can still receive a benefit with your push, pull, lift, and drag. Because that's not off your modifier, that's off your score. Although I want to check real quick here. Chapter 5 is equipment. All right, we don't have a minimum strength because we're only wearing medium armor, and we haven't taken feats for heavy armor. So I definitely think we're, you know, we're very good with our natural defenses. We could be even better if we wear medium armor and a shield, and use a shield. Consider feats that still give you a benefit. Yeah, like a resistance or something. Yeah, Jorian, that can always round up also. Though to use this as an example, both that would be, I think, in theme of the character, and to you know, to fill this out and to also provide this little interesting thought. If you can float a 1 in your strength, do it, because you'll get a benefit from it. It's not a lost point, or you're not waiting. You know, you're not waiting 4 more levels until you can finally round it up again. All right, so that's going to give our strength a 1, dex 3, con 4, intelligence 0, wisdom 2, charisma 0. So strength save is 6, athletics is 1. Dexterity 3, 3, 3, but stealth is an 8. We're going to have an 8 con saving throw. Intelligence is going to just be zeros down the line. She's not super dumb. Maybe she never got a formal education. Again, what if something happened to her parents? What if they were abducted by the Fae? And she, you know, and is a part of a game, or even the parents got in over their heads and were captured by the Fae, and the Fae said, "You want your parents back, you have to pay their debt." Ta-da! Instant plot, instant adventure, instant hook. I should have done on the other side. Instant hook into the story. The person playing this character would definitely be paying attention to your storyline. If it was along these lines, because it's intrinsic to their character. And filling in charismas are 0, except deception, which is 5. There you go, James. There you go. Hey, Alexander, good morning to you. Cat keeps laying on the keyboard, so it's auto-filling in stuff for me here. All right. Our initiative is a 3, and we do have advantage on this, too. We're a very twitchy barbarian. Our armor class, I mean, we could just say X, because if we're unarmored, we have a 17, which is really respectable. It could go to a 19 if we just wield a shield. If we do wear medium armor, and we go to half plate, we would actually have the same. We'd have 15 plus our max 2, unless we take that 1 feat that allows us to get a plus 3. So that would be 17. So she could be running around just, you know, buck naked through the woods, or whatever, like in you know, borrowed clothes or something like that. And she's a tough little gnome to hit. And she can also wear armor if she really needs to or wants to. It could also be part of a disguise. Barbarians would be very good at this, right? If she's laying in the road and she wants to waylay someone, you know, she can, you know, she's wearing armor and someone's like, "Oh, hang on, no, off with that. Out of that armor." Like, okay, just don't do anything. You know, kind of hucks it aside and dashes forward. And yet the crossbows are still missing her because she's running at them in just this streak of a gnome. Or she's streaking even for a further distraction, with a 17 AC, a 19 if she's rushing at him with a shield. Yeah, so armor might be, you know, maybe she learned that as a highway robber. If we do say that she is a part of a gang, absolutely, Jorian. Not necessarily Goblin. Unless it comes as part of a feature, like the halflings get a feature based on size. But it's not like 3rd edition where there is like infinite scaling for size categories. Well, it would be, yeah, so if you reduce the size of someone, then you reduce their damage based on the magic spell on them, but not because they're small. So if we maxed out her strength to 20, as a gnome, she's hitting just as hard as a Goliath with a strength of 20. There's no other modifiers, since 5e is it's very streamlined. And I get it too. If any of you say, wait, that just, come on, how can you have a roleplay system where a gnome can hit as hard as a Goliath? That's dumb. You're dumb. I'm done with this channel. Unsubscribe, unlike, unclick, unfollow. Look at it as a measure of aptitude than raw output. A strong gnome in your world may not actually be as strong as a Goliath. However, the muscle they do have, they're very good at using. And so when they strike from their angle, when they strike using their built body and their comfort in their own bodies with the muscles they've built, their strikes are as effective as a Goliath strike. It doesn't always have to be as hard a hit. It's as effective a use of the muscle that you have. Because a Goliath wizard with an 8 strength, you know, still may look stacked, but they haven't used their muscles in a particular fashion. You could absolutely describe a wizard as being, you know, bulky, you know, having, you know, maybe they built up, like they loaded up on the show muscles, but it's not really functional. You know, because there's a difference between doing things like powerlifting or bodybuilding. Bodybuilding, it's not that they're not strong. They're just strong in different ways than other weightlifters. And weightlifters are strong in different ways than marathon runners are. And so it's the aptitude of the musculature, not necessarily the raw horsepower. You're killing me. No, go away. Cat, you're killing me here. Please. I love you, but your tail has to stop getting behind stuff and thwacking it. James is saying Newtonian mechanics. All right, now our hit points. At level 1, we get our full hit point complement of 12. And for our 13... Hi, bud. Yeah, there we go. If any of you have the cat butt emote, you're welcome to share it. For our 13 remaining levels... Oh, he donated some hair between my keys, too. There's probably a lot of build-up there. I could probably build a new cat out of this keyboard. For our 13 remaining levels, you get half plus 1, unless you decide otherwise with your Dungeon Master. Half plus 1 is 7 if you're a D12 hit die class, which we are. And then for all our levels, all 14 of them, you get a bonus to hit points equal to your Constitution modifier. So this is going to be 56. This is going to be 91. So this is going to be 103. So this is going to be 159 hit points at level 14. Yeah, I do prefer the average, and I also prefer going standard array too. That being said, she's no longer a pile of numbers, everyone. If you have a thought about who someone like this would be known as, is it her real name? Is it a nickname? Is it, did she take on a working name for the Fae? Well, let me know a name. Our passive perception is going to be 12, as it's 10 plus our perception modifier. And as I said last time, passives are amazing. Use them. You want passive knowledges, passive insight, like there was in 4th edition, passive investigation, like it describes in one of the feats, if you decide to play with those. Now, while we aren't casting spells per se, but to save against our Barbarian wild magic, the DC is proficiency plus con, so that's 9, plus our plus that floating 8 that is intrinsic to all save DCs. So you need a 17 or greater to save against our effects. And we can come back here, and our Lingering Magic activates 4 times per long rest. And by the way, depending on the coloration, Trust a Flump, aka Jeremy from D&D Time, who's another channel that I'm networked friends with through Twitch here, brought up an interesting fact. If you color your transmutation magic as green, and you detect transmutation magic and you turn green, could you use that with your DM to maybe get advantage on stealth if you want to hide in a bush or something? Jorian says, Berina the Feybound. Now, is that a title then? Like, when she entered in this contract, was that given to her? Like, she has to state that? Or, like, is this how someone else knows her? Or is this more of a, this is what we're calling her as external to her, that we know this character is Berina the Feybound? Or is it something, or is it like, is her name like Berina Thistlebriar? But she calls herself, or it's her earned, her criminal, her Dread Pirate Roberts nickname of Feybound or something like that. Feybound can be multi-meaning. It can be chained to a Fey while other is using Fey power. Well, right, but so if we're naming the character, though, Jorian, what I'm getting at, is she calling herself this? Or is this what we're calling her? Or how does that name work then? If she signs her name to a document, does she sign it Berina the Feybound? She might, and I'm not making fun of that. I just want to know how we would interact with that. It's both. Okay, so she'd walk in and she'd introduce herself as simply Berina the Feybound. Okay, no, that makes sense. When we do this, I love being imaginative. Let's tie it to the character. Because look, if I wanted a random name, I would go to a random name generator. But we're here talking. We're running a workshop together. What is the name that means something to one or more of you out there? And how does the name get used? That being said, our first character still needed a name. We didn't have any. I didn't see any submissions for it. I didn't see any submissions for it here, for this one. So ladies and gentlemen, we did it. We made 2 barbarian characters who are both, they're both barbarians, and heck yes, they're both wild soul barbarians. At the same time, we have made 2 completely different characters. And when we're going to make 2 monks tomorrow. And then on Saturday at the end of the broadcast week, we're going to review them and show you what they're bringing to the party as we discuss why it's absolutely okay to have similar, like, overlapping characters or characteristics in a party. Could you have a functional party of 2 barbarians, let alone the same archetype or the same subclass, and 2 monks also with the same subclass? How could you ever hope to have diversity in your party? How could you hope to have, skills and be able to do different things? Oh, we will. And this is an active lesson in how we'll be able to do as such. Oh, that's fine, Jorian. Don't worry about it. It's absolutely fine. All right, I'm going to get up. I'm going to take a little break. I got to refresh myself. If you all need to, this is a good break moment. When we come back, if there are any of you who want to make a pull from the gachas, or you want to purchase a box, you want to have a little bit of table talk, we can get into kind of a post-workshop table talk wind down. And a full party of dwarven fighters, and I bet they I really hope they all had fun. And just because you're a dwarf and a fighter, and all of you are both dwarves and fighters, doesn't mean you can't do some fun, unique stuff. Or combine your powers in ways you didn't think that you'd be able to do individually. There's that too. So Jorian, if you are here, I mean, obviously tomorrow, come back if you can for our two Astral Monk builds. And then, especially on Saturday, starting at 11 p.m. Eastern, if you want to come and share a story like that, you're welcome to. Or for any of you who are new or lurking, and you have room for one more Discord, I understand. We're all in 11 billion of them. If you have room for one more, this Discord has a mentoring section, an inspiration section, general talk and chat. If you're looking for roleplay resources, it's there as well. And you can always share those stories on Tales from our Tabletop Tales section, or you could bring it up in conversation, or if someone has a mentor question and you want to step up and be a mentor, that's a tag that I can give you if you request it. You played a drunkard dwarf named Dragon Breath who fought with an adamantine beer keg. I love it. I love it. I like it. I love it. I want some more of it. Oh, a tankard. Yeah. I like a mug is small and what you put coffee in. You're talking about a tankard. A tankard is like a bigger. And Jorian, you all, by the way, thank you for the follow. Jorian, there are plenty of people here who English is a second or third or whatever language for them. Know that you're welcome here. And if you ever need me to repeat something, oh no, I understand, Jorian. If you ever need me to repeat something, let me know. I have worked with people from all around the world, all languages and whatnot. I've done my fair bit of traveling. I'm absolutely comfortable in an international setting. And when it comes to communicating ideas back and forth, I will do my best with it. If you ever need me to explain something differently. And, not in a way that's going to make you feel embarrassed or that I'm going to call you out for it. Well, I usually don't like DM PCs, but running for 3 people, let them help choose one for the 4th character. Well, see, in that case, at least the party had a say in it, and you're kind of there to, you're there to provide the roles, in a sense. All right, so let's take a 5 to 10 minute break. And when we come back, we'll see where we go from here, okay, everyone?